Welcome back, friends. In this episode, we're going to cover our time in the little country of Laos.
We've got kayaking, we've got bike rides, we've got big views. Come on along for the adventure. In this episode, we pick things up in the town of Luang Prabang. This is where our slow boat dropped us off at the end of the last episode. This town, since 1995, has been a UNESCO World Heritage Site for its architecture, which is a combination of Lao and French influences.
Big shout out here to our friend Hetty, who had visited Laos about a week before us and gave us a ton of recommendations, from our hotel stays to our restaurants to places to visit. And we really enjoyed that and got to see some great places. One of those places was a really neat kind of artsy place where women worked, and they made great tapestries. You could also take lessons here. It was just a really beautiful spot along the Mekong River. So we sat here and had lunch and had a look around, and it was a really nice afternoon. So we also saw a ton of other sites.
And made a new cat friend.
Yes, we did make a new cat friend there. So here's some shots from our visit to the city.
We did take one day trip just outside of town to some very scenic waterfalls. It was quite a hike up and got some nice views from the top as well. We stopped for a coffee, some very good cappuccinos, which I thought were expensive. They were 80,000 kip, and I thought that was a lot until I got the receipt, which also translated it. It was $3.50.
This was a great stop. It was really pretty. All the way up the waterfall, there were kind of different pools you could swim in. So we actually swam a bit in one of the pools at the top. Super clear water. There's kind of a spring at the top that starts the waterfall. And at the bottom of the waterfall, before you kind of really start hiking up, there's actually a bear rescue, these Asian bears. And it was kind of fun to sit and watch them for a little bit. So lots to do here, and a perfect day trip.
Next up, we took the fairly new high-speed train from Luang Prabang down to Vang Vieng, which is kind of an outdoor paradise for adventure seekers. So the high-speed train runs all the way from up in the north, the border with China, and so there were a lot of Chinese tourists joining us through this stretch of the trip, but a very smooth ride, and before you knew it, we were in Vang Vieng.
And this is an outdoor kind of capital of Laos. It was originally known kind of for a party place with tubing down the river. The government kind of put a stop to that. It was getting a bit dangerous and out of control. So they kind of turned it into more of an eco-adventure and less of a party thing. I think we saw like 3 tubes when we were there. It's mostly kayaking, parasailing, balloons, also some decent restaurants. Our first excursion was a kayaking trip down the river with wonderful tours. This was a wonderful tour. We quite enjoyed it. There were a few little rapids along the river, which made it pretty interesting. And then we stopped at the Wonderful Tours kind of location for some food and a little bit of exploring a cave by tube.
Here's a few more shots from the river. second day tour was a bicycle adventure. Our guide took us about 30 kilometers for some great views, some hikes up to some viewpoints. Another cave where he took us pretty deep into this cave. Thankfully, he had a headlamp and saw the reclining Buddha and on in. Apparently, this is where folks come to celebrate the New Year's as well. So great adventure there. And then where next?
Next up, we continued our bike ride. We actually did a hike up to a viewpoint, a famous viewpoint with kind of two motorcycles at the top. And it was a short climb, but it was steep and a little bit tough. And then back on the bikes and on to Lagoon 3. Here we had a little swim, and we also had a really interesting lunch.
So in his backpack, I was like, what's he got in that giant backpack that we rode all morning with? So he had not only kebabs ready to cook, but he had his own charcoal. And we just went off to the side of the Blue Lagoon and he lit up a fire and cooked us a fresh lunch, which was delicious.
That was super cool. It was very local too, so we kind of had a nice kind of local Lao meal that his wife, by the sounds of it, prepared the night before.
Yeah, no, and a good chat over lunch with him. Really enjoyed that part.
So here's some shots from our bike tour and our trip to Lagoon 3.
We stayed a total of 5 days in Vang Vieng. You could probably do it in about 2 or 3 and still see most of the sights there and do most of the adventures. But we did stick around and enjoy. We worked on our videos. We enjoyed the pool, enjoyed some of the views from our hotel room even, where we could see the folks going up and down the river, the balloons. The paramotors were kind of a unique vehicle, kind of like a tuk-tuk in the sky, a little motor on it and a big propeller. And a pilot will take you up for a tour. I was kind of tempted by this, but also kind of intimidated by them. So maybe next time.
Overall, a great stay in Laos. We really enjoyed the outdoor activity, the scenery, very beautiful. I'd say the country is a little less developed, especially compared to Thailand, which isn't too bad. You get to have a laid back kind of feel, culture. It's just very nice.
Which perhaps makes it all that much more of a shock when we land in our next destination, which is Hanoi, Vietnam, a population of 10 million and a lot of hustle and bustle. A completely different experience, but a really fun one as well. Be sure to tune in next time, and we'll see you in Hanoi.